Hey everybody, it's Ryan and Joe, and in this episode we're going to talk about the modalities of the signs. The modalities are one of the 6 components that go into the zodiac signs from which we derive the meaning of the signs. I said the word signs a lot, but it's fine. So the 3 modalities are cardinal, fixed, and mutable, and because there are 3 modes and 12 signs, there will be 4 signs that belong to each mode. So 4 cardinal signs, 4 fixed signs, and 4 mutable signs.
So let's start with the cardinal signs. The 4 cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So cardinal signs are often known for starting things. They're very initiatory, self-motivated. Sometimes they're characterized as ambitious and driven. And while cardinal signs are often eager to start new things and enjoy starting new things, they don't always follow through and finish everything they start.
Historically, the cardinal signs were referred to as movable, and this kind of highlights their more motion-oriented
Quality?
quality.
One thing that's often said about cardinal signs, just like forward moving, always looking for the next thing. They're more focused on like what's the next thing, the next exciting thing to do, rather than like sticking with one thing or like finishing one thing. They're like, what's the next thing?
I also feel like cardinal movable signs are sort of like easily led to something else.
Like they'll see a new thing and be like, oh, I'll go do that now.
Or like they can be talked into doing something else, or like, oh, hey, let's do this new thing that I just, like, yeah, I'd love to do that. That sounds great. And then somebody else is like, let's do this other thing. Yeah, that sounds great too.
That's interesting because I've always heard cardinal signs spoken more about like how they can get a bunch of people excited to go do a new thing, but then like they're the initiator, not the leader that keeps it going. So they're not as much like the followers that are talked into it as much as like they initiate it. But I know what you mean. Like they're quick to get on board with something else. So all 4 cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, all have these cardinal qualities, but express them in a little bit of a different way, since this is just one component that layers on with the rest. Aries is a cardinal sign, but it's also a fire sign, so it expresses this cardinalness in a fiery way. This is where you see Aries being competitive and aggressive. Cancer is a cardinal sign as well, but it's a water sign, so it has that quick to start new things kind of vibe of a cardinal sign, but in a watery way where it has quick changing emotions and is often kind of moody or just always starting a new emotion, if you will. Ask me how. Libra is cardinal in that it is also initiatory, but as an air sign, Libra initiates more friendships or social connections. Capricorn has the ambition of a cardinal sign as well, but in a very earthy way. Capricorn is only concerned with very grounded, practical, pragmatic matters and just really wants what it's doing to make sense.
So the second mode is the fixed signs, and the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. These signs are typically characterized as kind of slower. They're stubborn is a word that gets associated with them a lot. Kind of rigid and set in their ways, like they dig in their heels a lot, and once they find a way that works, they just kind of stick with it. Their kind of motto is like, if it's not broke, don't fix it, because whatever way works for them is just kind of what they're going to do until they die. So they die. But this fixity also comes off in a bit more helpful ways, in that the fixed signs are also characterized as loyal, dependable. You can kind of always count on them to be there when you need them to be there. They're always going to do their job. They're not wild cards at all.
So the fixed signs are all fixed, but they express their fixity in different ways. The fixed nature of Taurus comes through the earth element. So this is where you get the kind of stereotypical Taurus stuff where Taurus is stubborn, likes its comfort zone. The fixed nature is concerned with the tangible realm, things you can see and touch and feel. Then you get Leo, whose fixed nature comes through the fire element. So this is where you get Leo's leadership qualities and the kind of like look at me qualities, because Leo, a fixed fire sign, can kind of be like a beacon that can be seen from a distance. The fixed fire of Leo also comes through in the territorial nature of this sign. Then we get to Scorpio, whose fixed nature comes through the element of water. This is where you get the like stereotypical Scorpio secretiveness. Scorpios like to contain and keep their emotions kind of behind a wall and protected. This also comes through where Scorpios like to hold on to their emotions. That's the fixed quality and the water element coming together. Then you get Aquarius, who's a fixed sign that comes through the air element. So Aquarius still loves to exist in the idea realm and conceptualize things like an air sign would, but once it finds an idea that makes sense to it, it really holds it in high esteem and wants to maintain that in a very fixed way.
So the third and final mode is the mutable signs, and these are Gemini,
Virgo! It's really hard to list them.
The third and final mode is the mutable signs, and these are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Yes. Mutable signs are known for being adaptable or flexible, sort of able to blend in or fill whatever need is there. This kind of makes them a little bit more difficult to define, just kind of on their own, because something that can, fill a space kind of lacks a defined thing on its own.
Mutable signs are sometimes seen as a little flaky. Sometimes when flexibility goes wrong, it just means you can't really depend on them very much.
So those four mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, they're all mutable, but just like the other signs, they express their mutability in slightly different ways based upon their element. So Gemini, as the mutable air sign, is all about exchange of ideas or communication, like that kind of back and forth, but with words. Virgo, as a mutable sign, expresses those mutable characteristics through the earth element, so in much more tangible or practical kind of ways. And this comes across as Virgo's ability to sort of reorganize or restructure things.
So Sagittarius expresses its mutability through the fire element. So you get the adaptability and flexibility of mutable and the energy and passion of fire. And Sagittarius is often known for just kind of being down for anything and down to just pick up and head out the door on the next adventure.
So Pisces is a mutable sign that expresses its mutability through the water element. So it typically comes out through like in emotional situations or through feelings. And this is where you kind of have the idea of Pisces as kind of wishy-washy, like not sure what it's feeling, to where Pisces tries to adapt to everybody else's feelings. But of course, this leaves Pisces in the weird predicament of not knowing what it feels on its own.
That's the modalities. Peace out.
So you may be asking yourself, why are these specific signs cardinal? Like, why is Aries a cardinal sign? Why is Taurus a fixed sign? Where did this come from? Well, it actually has to do with seasonal, like with the seasonal progression or the seasonal cycle. All four of the cardinal signs begin a season. Aries starts spring, Cancer starts summer, etc., etc. This is true even in the southern hemisphere. They still start seasons, but it's just the opposite season. So cardinal signs begin seasons, then they pass over to fixed signs, which kind of maintain those seasons. And then mutable signs are kind of a mix of both seasons. So if Aries begins spring, the sun moving into Aries begins spring in the northern hemisphere, then when the sun moves into Taurus, it's the most spring. It's like spring at its peak, or its most consistent expression of springtime. And then when the sun moves into Gemini, now you've kind of like mixed some summer into spring as well. And then this cycle gets carried on through all the other signs, where we pick up with Cancer that starts summer and so on.
So you can probably see how this kind of reinforces the natures of these modalities as we already spoke about them. The cardinal signs beginning a season, the fixed signs maintaining or being the peak of a season, and the mutable signs being the transition between them. You see all of these qualities come out in the cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs themselves.
So that's modality, one of the 6 components of the zodiac signs from which we derive their meaning. Because it's only one component, modality, of course, has to layer on top of the other 5 components to help us individualize the signs and really get to the core of what they mean and why they mean those things, because that's important to know. If you have any questions about modality or anything that we mentioned in this video, be sure to leave us a question in the comment section below, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Take care, and we'll see you next time.